Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ijoma Onyato.
Hello and welcome. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu asked electoral officers to remain neutral and above board ahead of tomorrow's governorship election in Edo State. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike raises alarm over alleged siege to his hotel in Benin, but police insist it will ensure Edo election is peaceful. Man suspected to be mentally unstable kills his own mother and 2 children in Nnewi area of Anambra State. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson warns a second wave of COVID-19 hitting the UK is inevitable. Plus we'll have business, sports, and later on news from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, NNPC opens bid for rehabilitation of pipelines in the country's petroleum downstream sector.
On sports news tonight, National Basketball Association names Milwaukee Bucks forward Giannis Antetokounmpo as most valuable player for the 2019-2020 season.
It's the eve of the governorship election in Edo State, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says all is set for the much-anticipated poll. The chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, however, has a message for his colleagues and other officials of the commission participating in the election, promising them that their welfare and condition of service will be given priority during tomorrow's polls. Professor Yakubu wants them to remain steadfast and committed to the ideals of the Commission, as Nigerians and the international community expect so much from them. He asked them to remain above board and ensure that no political party or candidate is accorded an advantage over the other. Professor Mahmood Yakubu also asked electoral officers to be neutral at all times and adhere to their oath of neutrality. Now, in just a matter of hours, residents of Edo State will head to the polls to decide who will lead the affairs of the state for another 4 years. One assurance that INEC and security agencies are giving residents of the state, particularly eligible voters, is that there will be a free, fair and credible election tomorrow. Our next report captures the situation in the state, as civil society groups also say they're on standby to monitor the process.
The clock ticks and election day is just few hours away. The ever-bustling city of Benin in its usual nature. Security operatives look ready for the task ahead. Security is being a major concern though, but with the deployment, the Saturday election will sure be a test for the security agencies. But in truth, what is their strategy?
We have in Edo State over 31,000 policemen for the purpose of this election. We have increased our numerical strength. We have not just increased our numerical strength. We have the combat squad, the Nigerian police mobile squad. We have them here. We have the TIU, we have the SPU. We have policemen from different departments, from different sections that will participate in these elections.
We mapped out 13,311 personnel for this election, and we'll have 7,331 that will be fully involved in the elections, while the others will post to protect critical national assets and infrastructure.
It is the first major off-season election in the COVID-19 period for INEC, and all eyes are on the umpire. Civil society organizations say they are keeping a close watch.
Situation room will be looking out for early distribution and deployment of personnel, timely opening of poll, adherence to COVID-19 protocols.
But some others have far-reaching demands on the system for a better electoral process.
We urge INEC to up its game and strictly play by the provisions of the Electoral Act.
The elections are about the voters and the larger interests of the people. What are the people's expectations ahead of Saturday?
But tomorrow I'm going to vote by the grace of God. And I'm going to vote for the right person I want.
The security we are seeing right now in town, I think everywhere will be going to be calm tomorrow.
Yeah, I believe everything will be fine. I'm going to vote, but I'm not going to sway my conscience.
The election of Saturday will be slightly different from the past ones INEC has conducted. New policies like no face mask, no voting, voting to commence at 8:30 a.m. and close at 2:30 p.m. And there will be a notepad, Z-pad, to digitally take records of results of the polls. I guess it will be an exercise to behold. Seun Wakimaloye, Channels Television News.
And still on the Edo governorship election, the River State governor and chairman of the Edo PDP campaign organization, Nyesom Wike, has alleged a siege to his hotel in Benin City this evening by the police. The governor, who spoke exclusively to Channels Television, says he's in the state to monitor the election on behalf of his party and insists he won't leave the state.
As the chairman of the National Campaign Council, I came in here with some of my colleagues. I was at the hotel. Roughly maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the IG called, I think they called my office. I don't know how they got the number. And then I spoke to the IG, said I must leave a donor. I said, for what? You know, because my being there, the causing crime, but how will it cause council? Or I made statement that inflammatory. I don't statement that I make that we should be extra vigilant, that we should protect their votes. So what is the inflammatory thing I made? I said, no, you cannot tell me to leave a Edo State. I will not leave a Edo State. I'll be here. It's okay. You will tell me that they are in charge of government. I have no problem. So before I knew it, over in the next 10 minutes, over 300 policemen I surrendered the hotel. While I was in my room, that's okay, no problem. But I would never leave Edo State. I'm a member of the campaign council. I'm here to make sure that things go on well. And I'm not the only governor here. The governor of Kano is here, governor of Edo State is here, the deputy president is here. So why would you tell me to leave? I will not leave. No, I'm in my room. I'm not going to be a voter. So we have to meet with my colleagues to look at how things are going on. And that's the start of the campaign council. So it's for us to monitor what's going on. And tomorrow, we will have to monitor what's going on. So the IG cannot tell me that as a governor to tell me on phone that I must leave Edo State. It has never happened in this country. I don't know where we're heading to. So I need to call the governor to tell the governor he must leave the state. It's the highest level of impunity. I'm going business, I'm not going to vote. But we owe it as a duty as a party. The party told us, go there, monitor what's going on. And I'm here to do my assignment. I'm not telling you, we're not campaigning. The people who arrive, they're in the campaign, they must have made up their mind who they're going to vote for, who they will not vote for. So what my business? My business at the end of the day, at the summer campaign council, I should be able to write a report back to the party. See what I witnessed, see what happened, and this is the way we should go forward. But not for the IG to call me without respect to tell the governor he must leave the state. I have never seen that kind of thing in my life.
Meanwhile, the police have also been reacting to the alleged siege to Governor Wike's hotel. The Edo State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Johnson Kokumo, told Channels Television that the police is making sure there is peace in the state and will resist any act of violence.
The police doesn't need to lay siege on anyone, but the situation is, no matter the status of the citizen of Nigeria, in Nigeria, we will ensure that we do all within our capacity to create a conducive atmosphere for free, fair, credible elections. People having no business within Edo State cannot be moving from one point to another.
So will you shut them down?
Movement is restricted. For the purpose of this election, movement is restricted. The restriction commences from 12 midnight till 1800 hours of tomorrow, when we believe that the election will have been concluded. So no movement. Movement is restricted.
Okay, sir.
Nobody is empowered to move about.
Thank you so much.
Whether you are a governor or you are not.
Meanwhile, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party is also raising alarm over alleged threats to the lives of PDP governors who are in Edo State ahead of tomorrow's election. Mr. Uche Secondus alleges police-aided harassment and intimidation of the governors in their various hotels in Benin, the state capital. He calls on the Inspector General of Police to prevail on his officers to protect the lives of the governors.
Our governors are being harassed. PDP governors have been harassed in their hotels at the West End Hotel in Benin, and their life is in danger. We called on the IG to ask the security agencies to move out from the hotel and for the life of our governors to be safe. We are deeply worried about this situation because we believe that we are law-abiding, and it's a wrong signal for our governors to be harassed. We refuse that, we reject that. As long as the APC governors are in Benin, our governors will continue to remain in Benin. And we also bring this to the attention of the international communities to watch the key actors.
We'll have more on the governorship election in Edo State later on in the bulletin, where we'll be joined by the state resident electoral commissioner. Meanwhile, Governor Godwin Obaseki has given residents the assurance of their safety during tomorrow's election. In a state broadcast today, the governor said that with the assurances given by security agencies, their safety will be guaranteed. He also added that COVID-19 protocols will be observed at all polling units.
My dear good people of Edo State, as you go out to vote tomorrow in the governorship elections, I implore you to come out en masse to cast your votes for the candidate of your choice. The Nigerian Police Force and other security agencies have assured that adequate security will be provided during and after the elections. They have made provisions to make sure that there is proper security in every polling unit across the state. We have also been assured by the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, of their readiness to conduct free, fair, transparent, and safe elections tomorrow. All parties participating in the election have signed a peace agreement and have committed to a peaceful process. Adequate steps have also been taken to ensure compliance with the state's COVID-19 safety protocols during the elections. With these assurances and measures, trusting God Almighty, we believe that tomorrow's elections will be smooth and orderly. I also use this opportunity to urge all of you to come out and perform your civic duty without fear. May God Almighty continue to guide our dear state, and may peace and progress be upon us all. Thank you. God bless Edo State. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
In part 2, after the break, more on the governorship election in Edo State. We'll be joined by the resident electoral commissioner in Edo State, Mr. Johnson Alalibo. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu asks electoral officers to remain neutral and above board ahead of tomorrow's governorship election in Edo State. River State Governor Nyesom Wike raises alarm over alleged siege to his hotel in Benin, but police insist it will ensure the Edo election is peaceful. Man suspected to be mentally unstable kills his own mother and 2 children in Nnewi area of Anambra State. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson warns that a second wave of COVID-19 hitting the UK is inevitable. Now let's continue with our lead story, which is on the Edo State governorship election. We now join our political correspondent, Seun Okimbaloye, there in our Benin studio. He'll be talking to the resident electoral commissioner of the state. Hi, Seun.
Thank you and welcome to Benin City. We're now being joined on the news at 10 by the resident electoral commissioner of INEC in Edo State, Dr. Johnson Alalibo. Thank you so much, Dr. Alalibo, for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you, Sheon.
Let me begin by asking you, it's just a few hours before the opening of poll tomorrow. The last time we spoke to you, you said transportation of materials were ongoing. As of now, what is the latest?
The latest is that we have activated all our rack centers, and materials are moving. We have sorted out all the materials at the rack centers, batched them to units and voting points, and waiting for dawn for these materials to move to the polling units. And we expect that by 6-7 a.m., all the materials would have been at their various polling units.
There have been heavy rainfall in Benin City today. Has that affected your movement and your plans or preparations in any way?
For now, no, because except the good thing is that all the materials were moved yesterday to the LGAs. And of course, because they arrived at the LGAs early yesterday, before the rain starts, around 6 p.m., all the materials were already in the rack centers. And you could see the rain stopped about 2 hours ago, so there is no problem. We have not had any reports from the field that the rain disturbed movement of materials.
Tell us about the Z-Pad. A lot of people will be looking forward to how that operates tomorrow. We know there is a portal in which the results are supposed to be collated digitally. Is the portal ready, and how can people access the portal?
Yes, the Z-Pad was to be used for 2 functions. One of which was to do double authentication of the accreditation process. Now, it was test run in the state constituency election in Nasarawa State. There were some hitches, and we have been advised that we have to correct those issues before we test run it again for this major state governorship election. However, we are still retaining the second flank of the use. The second flank is that we are going to snap the unit results. After snapping, it will be sent to the portal where so many Nigerians will view it live, on time and real time. Thank you.
Is the portal active now?
Very active.
Do you have the information about the portal, if you can share with Nigerians?
Yes, It's within the kits. It's within the kits. It can be circulated. Before you leave, I'm going to give you a copy of that kit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let us also look at the larger picture of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the first major off-season election for INEC within this period. Should any voter not able to have a face mask, is INEC open to provide a face mask, not to disenfranchise any voter tomorrow?
That is the protocol. Upon the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, and the time for our INEC, given the time for the election, INEC on its wisdom developed a guideline called conducting election under the context of COVID-19. And this guideline contains several health measures to halt the spread of COVID-19 in those states for us conducting election under this pandemic. And one of the first items on that guideline, in line with the Presidential Committee on COVID-19, Presidential Task Force, one of the first compulsory item on that guideline is that every voter must wear face masks.
So it's compulsory?
It's compulsory.
So people must come with it?
Yes, both the personnel and the voters. And for we in the INEC, we have already been supplied the face masks for our personnel.
All right.
Voters are expected to get their own masks. But mind you, it is not, INEC is not emphasizing that it must be a surgical mask.
Okay. All right. It must just be a face covering.
Yeah, a face covering.
We must leave it at that. Dr. Johnson Alalibo, Rec of INEC in Edo State, thank you so much, and we wish INEC the very best in tomorrow's election.
Thank you very much. I will give you the kits,
no problem.
The booklet that contains our information kits.
Thank you so much.
With which all the information you need about this election is contained.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Alalibo.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's back to you now, Ijoma.
All right, thanks a lot for that one, Shun. Away from politics now, the commercial city of Nnewi was rattled earlier today after a 47-year-old man killed his mother and two of his children with a machete while they were sleeping. Police authorities in the state say no explanation was obtained as to the cause of the ugly incident, except that the suspect, Mr. Emeka Ezimadu, who owns a Sabbath mission, was suspected to be mentally unstable. Apart from killing his 85-year-old mother and two children, the suspect also attacked two other children who are currently battling for their lives in hospital. His wife is said to have escaped.
Normally, this thing normally happens to him. But for past 15 years, has not been there before he got married. So this is a kind of health issue. As a matter of fact, it's a health issue. So, but we thought the matter is over before he got married to his wife and have about 5 kids. So suddenly, about 3 days ago, the thing developed again. So warrant him of this type of situation. Her aged mother and one of his son. The other 3 is in hospital. They are still in hospital at Akudo Hospital. I see that this is a tragedy, and it's not something that anybody expected. Although it has happened and it has happened, the law must take its full course. The police has already taken charge of everything.
From that troubling story, we move on to security in the northeast, where the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, has attributed the rising number of Boko Haram fighters to the overwhelming unemployment rate in the state. The governor was speaking to members of the House Committee on the Northeast Development Commission, who paid him a visit in Maiduguri, the state capital. The chairman of the House Committee also solicited the governor's cooperation towards achieving the common goal of improving sustainable development in the region.
If nothing is being done, the limits are falling. We shall face very serious challenges, more than what we are facing now. Because right now, the insurgents are recruiting many of our children into the sect because of increasing unemployment rate. There is a need for this very important committee to interface with the larger House Committee to look into the possibility of empowering the teeming youth growth in the state.
We are not oblivious of the frustrations in an environment of constant threat, which has resulted in huge loss of human lives and infrastructure. That is why in the consideration of the budget for the Commission last year, we ensured that we approved as much as could be given. Now we are here to see what has been done in your state. Our prayer is that our presence here today would serve as a unifying voice and common goal of encouraging and improving sustainable development for the people of Borno State in particular and the Northeast region in general.
At least 5 persons, including a mother and her 4 children, were reportedly abducted by gunmen at Barkallahu community in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. Now, the fresh attack comes barely 1 week after 17 family members who were said to be on their way to the farm were kidnapped at Udawa village in Chikun local government area of the state. Eyewitnesses told Channels Television that the attack occurred in the early hours of today when the gunmen invaded the community and started shooting sporadically while residents were still sleeping. A resident of the community, Abdul Salam Haruna, whose wife and 4 children were kidnapped, said the gunmen invaded his house and forced the door open before gaining access into his apartment and later took away his family members. He added that the gunmen took away 2 of his neighbor's children and also attacked 2 other houses. When the news at 10 returns, NNPC opens bid for rehabilitation of pipelines in the country's petroleum downstream sector. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Over in Abia State, the contractor responsible for the construction of a building which recently collapsed in the state has been arrested by the state's police command. At least 5 people died after the building, located along Nnamdi Azikiwe Street in the commercial hub of the southeastern state, caved in on Wednesday, September the 16th. The police say rescue officials are still combing the rubble to ascertain if more victims are still trapped. The federal government is displeased with the statements issued by the United States and the United Kingdom on the governorship elections holding in Edo State tomorrow and that of Ondo State on October the 10th. It also expressed concern over the visa restrictions imposed on the U.S. on some unnamed politicians for their alleged involvement in electoral violence during the Kogi and Bayelsa State governorship polls. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement that it had taken note of their concerns regarding the elections in Edo and Ondo states. According to the statement, President Muhammadu Buhari has continually appealed to all parties and contestants to peacefully conduct themselves before, during, and after the elections. The federal government advises the UK and the US to cooperate with the relevant agencies by providing them with concrete evidence of observed misconduct and to allow Nigeria's laws and regulations to take their course. The European Union wants the federal government to reverse the restrictions placed on 3 of the largest airlines in Europe. At a meeting with members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, the EU head of delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS, Mr. Ketil Carlson, explains that the restriction is affecting trade between Europe and Nigeria. And as an act of reciprocity, Nigeria had announced restrictions on some foreign airlines ahead of the September the 5th, 2020 resumption of international flights into the country.
Take any national anthems or prayers.
Members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 at a meeting with the European Union delegation in Nigeria. The officials are discussing access for European carriers into Nigeria's airspace and access for passengers into Europe.
Passengers from Nigeria to the European airspace.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs is leading the Nigerian delegation and he lays out the concerns of the Nigerian government.
So what we've asked the European side to let us have is a detailed information on Nigerians that can access European space from Nigeria. So which category of Nigerians can, in this present time, and with the release and restrictions announced by the EU, are affected? You know, who are the people considered as essential travel, and what chances does an average Nigerian have to visit a European country from here?
The European team includes the ambassadors of France, Germany and the Netherlands. They host 3 of the largest airlines plying the Nigeria-Europe route, and they want the flight restrictions reversed.
There was never a ban against flights coming from Nigeria to Europe. There was never, as I see it, a retaliation or reciprocity at play here. Merely what Europe has done is exactly the same that Nigeria has done, namely looking at very carefully what essential groups of people should come in at time of crisis, and how can we provide protocols to handle that in terms of testing and isolation if needed. So we are very hopeful that following this discussion, we will be able to take yet another step in the direction of normalizing the availability of flights with Europe. And of course, as always, ministers, we stand ready to provide all the information that you need to take your decisions in this sense.
Both sides agreed to come up with details of what is required to review the flight restrictions. The outcome of the review process is expected in the next 2 weeks.
Part of arguments against the recent amendment of the Broadcasting Code of the National Broadcasting Commission is that it discourages creativity and hampers copyright. This challenge is why the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is asking for a revisit of the amendment in a bid to position Nigerians for the market in the digital space. He was speaking during a live chat on Facebook with the Vice President of the Networks Policy and Communication, Nick Clegg.
The change in the technology space is so rapid that you frequently find that the regulator is really just chasing after the innovations and all of that to see how best to regulate without stifling these companies. Regulation 9, the MBC code, which you referred to, is one which obviously is now. Well, there's activity around trying to take a second look at it. There are those who say that it is anti-competitive, is an anti-competition. There are those who say that it is pro-competition, by the way. So it's one which I think we should take a second look at. Basically, what it says, as you know, is that if you have a product, a licensed product for TV or film and all of that, you're expected to share it with other with other platforms. It's one which, and I understand the argument of those who say that why should that this is a violation of copyright and intellectual property in other ways, etc., which is a very strong point, and this is why I think that we ought to take a second look at it and see whether there are ways of moderating that to be more acceptable.
Meanwhile, the Vice President is offering an assurance that the federal government's economic sustainability plan is on course, especially the development of micro, small and medium enterprises. Professor Oshibajo was speaking at the virtual commissioning of a shared MSME facility in Lagos State in the fashion industry. The facility, which is a partnership between the federal government, Lagos State government and some private organizations, is equipped with state-of-the-art facilities and will service over 3,000 fashion designers in the state.
The Lagos State government, through the National MSME Clinics, decided to tap into the available potential in the industry by setting up a shared facility in the state. This has emerged as the Eco MSME Fashion Hub. Present at the event for the commissioning are dignitaries and partners from the private and public sectors, including the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, while the Vice President and some members of the Federal Executive Council joined virtually. The Governor of Lagos State led other guests to formally commission and inspect the facility. Speaker after speaker highlight the importance of the project in advancing the fashion and apparel industry.
It has been established, and rightly so, that shared facilities have been found to be effective tools to minimize the infrastructural challenges that have inhibited MSMEs over time.
The Fashion Hub is the state government's additional contribution to creating wealth, boosting employment, and further growing the GDP of Lagos.
Certainly a step in the right direction. It is a win-win situation for everybody, as it shows our progressive dedication to the eradication of poverty and the economic emancipation of our people. We'll continue to monitor it and will ensure that nothing falls below the standard that we are passing on to the beneficiaries of today.
Fashion Hub 1 in Lagos State.
As a core component of the federal government's economic sustainability plan, the Vice President considers it timely in alleviating the challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic on micro, small and medium enterprises.
The ASP, the Economic Sustainability Plan, is not the end of the process. As a matter of fact, it is to stimulate the process, and the federal government is committed to ensuring that MSMEs survive in every way, and we continue to look at new and creative ways of ensuring this support for the MSME sector. Very soon, the products of the hub will be ubiquitous on the streets and in the stores around the country.
The Eco MSME Fashion Hub is equipped with various kinds of industrial equipment. It will serve as a workspace for all categories of tailors at a flat rate of 2,500 naira per day. The hub will also have training sessions for those aspiring to acquire and improve their tailoring skills.
For some more business news, here's Teniola Shobowale.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Ijoma. Welcome to Business News. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation says it will enter a public-private partnership for the rehabilitation of the nation's pipelines in the petroleum downstream sector. At the bid opening ceremony in Abuja, the Group Managing Director of the corporation, Mr. Melekari, explains that the NNPC is adopting the approach because of the investment and technology required to rehabilitate the facility. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has clarified the recent directive by the federal government asking all bank account holders in financial institutions to obtain and fill a self-certification form in their respective banks. In a tweet today, the FIRS explains that the form is to be administered only on reportable persons who are non-residents in the country holding accounts in financial institutions under the Common Reporting Standard regulation. The Revenue Agency explains that other persons who are resident in more than one country and are directed by law to pay taxes are expected to inform the financial institutions during account opening processes before filling the form. Meanwhile, the federal government has apologized for the misleading directive, stating that the notice does not apply to everyone. Nigeria's candidate in the race for the World Trade Organization's top job, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has been selected alongside 4 others by the General Counsel Chair, David Walker, and 2 co-facilitators in the selection process. According to Mr. Walker, the second phase of consultations will begin on September the 24th till October the 6th, where members will be asked to select 2 preferences to the facilitators to the number of candidates from 5 to 2. He explains that the final process will include a call for head of delegations meeting where the result will be announced to the WTO membership on the next Director General of the trade body. Now, after a 3 consecutive day sell-off, the local stock market made a moderate rebound on the back of investors' renewed interest for some key banking and consumer goods equity. Chimeze Obi-Wagu tells us more.
Thanks, Denny. Welcome to Stock Market Report. Never mind my red color today. Market was actually in the green. With a resounding bellow, the bull managed to push the bear aside to reclaim its position in the market. The bull thrusted up and pushed the index into the green, 0.16%. However, when you look at the index change for the week, you'll see that the market is still in the red. The week to date dropped by about 0.07%, indicating that the bear is still very much present. The likes of Dangote Sugar, GT Bank, and FBNH supported the market, resulting to what we have on the sectoral index. Don't forget, the last of the banking stocks paying dividend was marked down today, and that's Access Bank. Incidentally, Access Bank added 10 kobo to its share price, contrary to expectation. Looking at the activity chart, we will see that the bargain hunting is easing off gradually. The total value of shares traded is a paltry 1.8 billion naira, buttressing what I said yesterday, that the market may gradually return to an era when it does less than 2 billion naira daily average value. With this development, traders say we may not see as much activity next week, except if there are good developments coming from the MPC meeting scheduled for Monday and Tuesday next week. Until then, let's have a great weekend. And that was the Stock Market Report. I'm Chimeze Obi-Wagu.
Thanks a lot, Chimeze. The federal government has withdrawn the approval granted to Emirates to conduct international flight operations in the country. The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, disclosed this via a post on his Twitter handle today, noting that the ban will take effect on Monday, September the 21st. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority had, in a memo earlier this month, included Emirates in the list of approved airlines for international flights for both Abuja and Lagos airports. But the minister said the decision to reverse the approval was taken after a meeting of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 with European Union ambassadors. Now, leading African and Asian stock markets ended Friday's trading session mostly positive, with their US and European counterparts finished lower following a spike in coronavirus cases and continued sell-off in tech shares. Here are some snapshots of the closing numbers. And that's Business News Tonight. It's back to you, Ijoma.
Thanks a lot, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson warns that a second wave of COVID-19 hitting the UK is inevitable. Plus more stories from our London studio in Around the World in 5. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson says a second wave of coronavirus is inevitable. And while he does not want a second lockdown, the government may need to introduce new restrictions. Let's head to our London studios now with Simon Pusey in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A number of European countries are expected to announce new restrictions in response to rising coronavirus cases. Several places have announced record increases in daily infections, while others have seen their highest numbers in months. Spain, France and the Czech Republic have seen some of the most dramatic spikes. Most cases in Europe are currently being seen in younger people, but there are concerns they could spread the virus to more vulnerable older people. In the UK, tighter restrictions will come into force in Lancashire, Merseyside, parts of the Midlands and West Yorkshire after significant increases in cases. The new rules ban separate households from meeting each other at home or in private gardens. Pubs and restaurants must also shut early. There are signs in Latin America that the pandemic's epicenter is moving to Argentina. The country broke its daily new infection record on Thursday with almost 13,000 cases recorded, pushing the country's total to more than 600,000 in total. A nationwide lockdown introduced in March still remains in place, although some restrictions have been eased from mid-August. China says it is conducting military exercises near the Taiwan Strait to protect its sovereignty as a top US official visits Taiwan. The live fire drills take place as relations between Beijing and Washington sour and the US shores up its support for Taiwan. China regards self-ruled Taiwan as a breakaway province. China's Defense Ministry spokesman has accused the US and Taiwan of stepping up collusion, frequently causing disturbances, although he did not make any reference to the visit. Belarus's President Alexander Lukashenko has announced the country needs to close its borders with Poland and Lithuania and strengthen border controls with Ukraine. Both Lithuanian and Polish foreign ministries have confirmed their border checkpoints are operating as normal. It comes as Russian and Belarusian special forces perform a series of Slavic joint military drills, as announced by the Russian Defense Ministry. The drills are taking place in the Brest region near the border with Poland. Bolivia's interim president, Jeanine Áñez, has quit the race for the presidential election due on October the 18th. Ms. Áñez said she did not want to split the vote and see the return to office of former President Evo Morales' Socialist Party. The party's candidate, Luis Acre, is leading in opinion polls, with Ms. Áñez trailing in 4th place. Ms. Áñez was sworn in last year after Mr. Morales resigned and left the country amid allegations of electoral fraud. 48 migrants have jumped overboard from the rescue ship Open Arms in an attempt to swim to the nearby southern Italian city of Palmero. It was the second consecutive day that a group of desperate migrants jumped overboard from the charity ship, after 70 did the same on Thursday. The vessel rescued over 270 migrants more than a week ago in the Mediterranean and is still waiting for instructions from the Italian government on where the migrants will be allowed to disembark. In the United States, Storm Sally has brought heavy rain and flooding to the Carolinas and Georgia as it continues its path of destruction north from the U.S. Gulf Coast. It has already battered Florida and Alabama with rain and storm surges, downing power lines, turning roads into rivers, and leaving homes submerged. At least one person has been killed and hundreds of thousands left without power. Sally has now weakened to a post-tropical cyclone, but meteorologists warn that tornadoes are still possible. Jair Bolsonaro has claimed that Brazil should be congratulated for the way it preserves its environment, while the largest fires ever recorded continue to ravage both the Amazon and Pantanal wetlands. Speaking at a public event, Mr. Bolsonaro added that Brazil is the country that preserves the environment the most. Amazon deforestation has surged by 34.5% in the 12 months through to July, compared to the same period in a year ago. In Pantanal, the world's largest wetland, a record 23,500 square kilometres have burned, nearly 16% of the whole region. Married women in Botswana can for the first time own land alongside their husbands. It's been announced by the President, Mogwitsi Masisi. Until now, the country's land policy stopped wives from owning land if their husbands already had some. The discrimination left millions of women without access to the land where they live and work. Botswana's president tweeted the amended law, specifying the new policy will also protect widows and orphans. And finally, a Malaysian man claims to have discovered a video and selfies taken by a monkey after recovering his missing phone. The footage shared on social media shows a monkey staring at the camera before attempting to put it in its mouth, as well as photographs appearing to have been taken by the primate. After retrieving his phone in his back garden, the man discovered the images and said they caused him to choke a little and to laugh. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Hello and welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's sole representative, Georgia Obo, has finished 6th at the Czech Republic Ladies Golf Challenge in Prague, which is the second event for 2020. Georgia made the top 10 with a score of 69, 73, and 72 to finish at 1 under par at the 3-day competition. In basketball, the Milwaukee Bucks forward Giannis Antetokounmpo has been named the 2019-2020 National Basketball Association Most Valuable Player of the Year. This is the second straight NBA Most Valuable Player award for him, who becomes the 12th player to earn the honor in consecutive seasons. In football, FIFA President Gianni Infantino says the organization has been able to support the game through the COVID-19 crisis because the money doesn't disappear anymore. FIFA's COVID-19 relief plan will distribute $1.5 billion to national associations and regional confederations affected by the pandemic. That's where we leave it on Sports News. Ijoma, back to you.
Thank you, Olumide. And the main news again. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, today asked electoral officers to remain neutral and above board ahead of tomorrow's governorship election in Edo State. Well, that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Do have a great weekend. Stay safe and good night.